Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for making it out. I know the weather was trying not to cooperate with us today, but I'm so glad everybody made it in and made it in safely. My name is Crystal Haynes Coppathorne. I am the chair of the Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Observance Committee. And again, welcome to our 35th annual event here in the town of Arlington. And, I would love to share some of the history of this event, with the Arlington Interfaith Association as the driving spirit. Representatives from 4 local groups, they spearheaded Arlington's first townwide observance of the Martin Luther King Jr. birthday holiday back in 1989. So this event has been repeated each January. We always do it right on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Observance Committee of Arlington has been dedicated to upholding the values and the legacy of the civil rights leader through its yearly celebration in town and by supporting local progressive initiatives. Please allow me first to welcome Rabbi Avi Bouquet of the Center for the Jewish Life, Arlington Belmont, for our invocation. And if you want to read more about our history of this event, it is in your program. Rabbi.
Thank you, Crystal, and good evening. It is such a joy and privilege to be with you here this evening. I feel immensely honored and blessed to have the opportunity to deliver today's invocation. I am ever so grateful to be here, surrounded by friends committed to the nonviolent work of Dr. King. As we come here together to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., there is so much for which we must be grateful. Through his actions, he changed our country and our world for the better. We are the privileged ones who live our lives in the shadow of this giant who walked among us. And at the same time, we must remember that there's so much still to do. We are the ones tasked with the responsibility of continuing his work and legacy. And today, there is an urgency here to hear his call and to act. The prophet Jeremiah writes, "God, who is the champion of kindness, justice, and equity in our world, delights in only these 3 things." Dr. King's life work was to remind us that the most fundamental divine precept is that all human beings are equal. Remembering that we are equal, let us understand and rededicate ourselves to the principle that none of us, no matter how powerful and privileged or subjugated and aggrieved, has the right to harm another. When he accepted his Nobel Peace Prize, Dr. King remarked that your law rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. Violence and oppression, he said, cannot be overcome with violence and oppression. Remembering that we are all equal, let us understand that no law is just or moral unless, as Dr. King wrote from his jail cell in Birmingham, it uplifts human personality. We are therefore duty-bound to fashion societies that square with the inalienable principle of human equality and the infinite measure of human dignity. We are responsible to and for each other, regardless of whether or not we are directly impacted by injustice. Equality for all is the concern of all. Remembering that we are all equal, help us understand that there is no neutral place in which any of us can stand, and no time of injustice befitting inaction. We will have to repent, Dr. King wrote, not merely for the hateful words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. Human progress never rolls in on wheels of inevitability. It comes through the tireless efforts of people willing to be co-workers with God, and without this hard work, time itself becomes an ally of the forces of social stagnation. And so I offer this prayer. Modim anachnu lach, Hashem Elokeinu ve'Elokei Avotenu. We give thanks to you, God, our God and the God of our ancestors. Thank you for providing us with this opportunity to come together in fellowship and community. In the midst of a challenging time for our society and our world, we are grateful to be united in your divine presence. Thank you for the gift of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a prophet whom you shared with us. He taught us that all people are B'Tselem Elokim, created in the image of God. He led us, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, in the pursuit of justice. And he set an example, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, which means to love our neighbors as ourselves. Through his life, he fulfilled the original covenantal promise given to Abraham and Sarah. V'hayei bracha, v'nivrechu v'cha kol mishpachot ha'adama. And you shall be a blessing, and through you all the families of the earth will be blessed. He was a blessing, and we were blessed through him. And let us say, Amen.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. You know, as we think about that spirit of giving and the generosity and the acts of service of this day, we want to go ahead and have our free will offering before we have this beautiful performance by the Arlington High School Orchestra and the Arlington High School choruses as well. You know, each year the proceeds are distributed to public organizations, nonprofits that promote the goals of equity, justice, and nonviolence for which Dr. King gave his life. Keep that spirit in mind, rather, while you give. You also have the opportunity, as we pass along baskets, if you have some cash in your pockets, we have a QR code at the back of your program here so that you can donate digitally as well. This goes straight to our GoFundMe page, where we use these funds to fund our scholarships. That information is also in your program as well. We've given out 2 scholarships to students who exemplify Dr. King's legacy and his spirit. But what am I doing talking up here? The venerable Pearl is in the house. Pearl Morrison. Pearl, come say a few words. Come say a few words. I'm new to this. Pearl is not. She was one of the founding members of the committee. No, you never could.
Yeah. Well, how nice to see everyone, huh? It's been a few years. The only thing that's missing is the collation provided by Cookie Time. They're wonderful cookies. And this is just one of my most favorite things to do, is to honor Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's just on my heart all year. I can't wait until the town of Arlington observes his wonderful life. And Arlington, you folks have just been so dedicated to our program. The rabbi that you just finished listening to as he praised God for Dr. King, he flew in from Israel this morning, and he promised me, he said, I want to be a part of this program. This is what Arlington is about in regards to the Martin Luther King program. So it's just a delight. Now, Crystal pretty much covered what we do, but in your program, there is a page that tells you what we have done with the money. And I can tell you, through your generosity, there's a list of the organizations, individuals, people from the religious community, the civic community that support this program. And I can tell you for sure, a portion of the money that you give this evening is going to go to this wonderful group of young musicians that are gracing our stage from the Arlington High School. And these kids 3 or 4 groups, musical groups. They're going to Italy in February. So I know that you're going to be generous, and we're going to be generous to them. They're doing fundraisers, they're doing everything. Isn't it interesting how education, we always have to sell brownies to get anything done? But the PAPA, the Parents Association for the Performing Arts, there 70 students are going to go. So we certainly want to be a part of that, to show them a token of our appreciation for them coming out and coming here and performing this evening. So I think that's it for me. But anyway, thanks again for coming. It's a pleasure to see all of you here.
So as you can see, we have our orchestra setting up for the next amazing. This is an amazing setup that they have here, because they are giving tribute to Florence Price, a noted African-American woman recognized as a symphonic composer and the first to have a composition played by a major orchestra. The Old Boatman, which is the piece that they're playing, actually, is a 2-page piano piece, but it's been adapted by the amazing Arlington High School Orchestra here. There's also a film that accompanies this piece that they will be playing along with as well. So you're in for a real treat, and this is just one piece of music that we'll have throughout the program.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jill Harvey. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Division Director here in Arlington, and also the Vice Chair of the MLK Committee this year. And most recently, at the end of 2022, I was elected president of the Mystic Valley Area Branch NAACP. I'm delighted. Thanks. Well, really, I'm delighted and honored to be able to introduce our keynote speaker this evening, Tanisha Sullivan, who is the current president of the Boston branch NAACP. Tanisha is an inspiring, strong, Black female leader and civil rights advocate that I am looking forward to learning so much from and hopefully collaborating with in my new role. Tanisha's family has deep roots in Massachusetts and in Boston in particular. Both of her parents were born in Boston. Her father had a career working in Boston public schools, and her mother spent several years working in media before opening her own small business. Tanisha was born in Boston and raised in Brockton. After graduating from Thayer Academy in Braintree, she attended the University of Virginia, where she obtained a degree in government. She then earned both her JD and MBA from Boston College. Tanisha has practiced law in large firms and life science companies in Greater Boston and New York City. From 2013 to 2015, Tanisha served as the Chief Equity Officer for the Boston Public Schools. Following her parents' example, Tanisha's life's work has been focused on service, equity, and impact. In 2017, she was elected to serve as the president of the NAACP Boston branch in a volunteer capacity. She's continued to lead the organization in its fight for racial, economic, and social justice with data-driven and solutions-oriented framework. Voting rights has always been a chief priority for the NAACP since its foundation. Following in that important tradition, Tanisha has led efforts to expand access to the ballot box and make our communities more representative. I invite you all to please give Tanisha Sullivan a warm welcome.
Thank you, Jillian. Welcome to the President's Club. Yes, it's good. I am truly excited to be here in Arlington tonight and appreciate the invitation. Where's Crystal? Did she slip away? But want to thank Crystal, of course, and the entire committee for the invitation to share with you this evening. You know, I think it is, I've experienced a number of MLK programs, and I am always struck by the communities that are able to consistently carry forward their celebrations, their commemorations of the life and work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The reason is because I believe that each of these observances give us an opportunity to start anew. They give us an opportunity to reflect, yes, on Dr. King, but they also give us an opportunity to reflect on our own lives, the commitments we've made, the work we've done, and the work yet to be done. And so 35 years is, you know, that's a minute. That's almost like middle age, okay, almost. So it's a big deal. And so I celebrate the Arlington community for your commitment to this very important observance. I do want to acknowledge that, yes, we have a wonderful gathering physically present here in this beautiful town hall. But we also have folks joining us virtually. And so I want to say welcome to them as well. It is my hope, it is my intention to ensure that you feel as much a part of this gathering as those of us in this space do, and that you are inspired, that you are motivated from wherever you're viewing. I appreciate the virtual option, not just because of convenience, but because of accessibility and inclusion. And so, again, I celebrate and appreciate the town of Arlington for recognizing how important, the community of Arlington for recognizing how important that is. So, tonight I want to talk a little bit about Dr. King, yes, his work, but I really want to lean in on what helped to sustain him in the work. Okay. One of the things that I love about King observances is that very often they are intentionally interfaith. Okay. And that is because, of course, we are celebrating the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Like, that reverend actually means something, right? He was a faith leader, and his faith really was an important part of not just who he was, but really did help to sustain him in the work. And along his journey, he was intentional about including leaders from different faith walks. You know, history is full of stories of the close relationship that King had with many leaders in the Jewish community. It's filled with many stories of the relationships that he built with faith communities, the faith community of Islam. That, I believe, is an important piece to lift up, particularly in this time. The reason I say that is because whether you engage in racial justice work as your full-time profession, or you are someone who is practicing DE&I and you're working to infuse it into the work that you do outside of the full-time profession, or you are a volunteer in the community engaged in racial justice work, regardless, this work is demanding. And if we're not careful, it has the potential to divide whole communities, jeopardizing, quite frankly, our forward progress. It's also important to remember that in this racial justice work, we are in a constant state of discovery, a constant state of learning. And so the humility that comes from having a spiritual connection, whatever it may be for you, is something that, too, I believe should not be understated. And with that, I have another thank you. I want to thank our young people for their musical performance. I know they're up, down, because I didn't know Florence Price until this evening. And I'm someone who has a deep love for music. And I am just so filled that as I came here today to share with you, Arlington, your children have already blessed me with a gift to learn of this wonderful woman. And that is one of the beautiful aspects of being on a racial justice journey. Unfortunately, there are a lot of hidden figures, but every day we have the opportunity to be blessed with the gift of discovery. And so I do want to thank our young people for that. I can't see them all. Up, down, okay. Yes, we can. So I am going to focus on grace tonight because I do believe that in these times of great divisiveness, hyperpolarization, I believe that grace may just be the thing that helps us push through. And with that, faith communities, and I'm speaking to those who have gathered in interfaith convening for a moment, faith communities really do have an important role to play. Because healthy faith communities can be an intentional counterbalance to that divisiveness, to that hyperpolarization. There is a role to play specifically today for interfaith community in our racial justice work. Racial justice work is a calling, and I believe we should do it with a seriousness of purpose. Racial justice work should not be taken lightly, and at the same time, we should treat those who engage in this work with care and humanity. Grace, in the context in which I'll share tonight, is the active practice of love and peace that allows us to better see and act upon the humanity in others. Indeed, one of the gifts Dr. King gave to his detractors was grace. Grace as a pardon. I believe the practice of giving grace to others allowed Dr. King to better engage others, meet them where they are in their humanity. It allowed him, in the face of racism and racist acts, to be forgiving and understanding so the work could continue to move forward. Imagine if Dr. King responded to the violent acts of racism absent this grace. Imagine if Dr. King did not allow for the slow process of growth that is innate in every human and treated his adversaries based on how they interacted with him. Dare I say, we would not be here today. As we honor the life and work of King, I want to encourage you to adopt an active practice of grace toward others. And I say this, friends, with a full acknowledgement that what I'm asking is not easy. Indeed, for those of us engaged in racial justice work, every day presents opportunities to practice grace, because if you're really doing the work of racial equity, of racial justice, if you're really rolling up your sleeves and wearing out shoe leather, if you're getting your hands dirty, if you're making people uncomfortable, if you're disrupting, then that means not everyone's going to be happy with you. In fact, you'll have people actively engaged in the practice of disliking you. And oftentimes, they won't know why, neither will you. If you are engaged, truly engaged, in the work of racial justice, you will be disappointed, you will be isolated, and sometimes you will even be betrayed by those presenting as friends. Practicing grace under these conditions in the fullness of our humanity is not easy. But I believe that in order for us to move forward, to be able to push past the divisiveness and the hyperpolarization, a belief that in this pursuit of justice, there are winners and losers, that it is a zero-sum game. We must infuse more grace into our communities and into our work. And the truth is, whether we realize it or not, we're getting grace every day. Because grace is favor, living a life that we're not worthy of. Let me tell you how this shows up. Let's see if this resonates. You know, you have a big project due at work, but you got a whole lot of other stuff going on. But you get the project in. You present the report. You deliver the presentation. And there's a feeling in the pit of your stomach, and you're like, oh, they're going to call me out on this. But instead, everybody says, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. That's grace, because you know you didn't deserve that. And for our young people, you know that test that you didn't study for? You know the one you just procrastinated. You sit for it, and you get a B+, A-, you might even get an A. That's grace. When how you're showing up is not worthy of what you're receiving in return, grace. There is a gospel song by Jonathan McReynolds called Grace, and the words of it, I love it. It says, I needed your grace more than I thought I ever would. You forgave more than I thought you ever could. I was stronger in my head, but the truth is, I need your grace. Well, these words represent a song, truly, that is a prayer to God, thanking him for grace. But I also believe that it is a prophetic word, a prophetic message, a prophetic thank you from those we encounter on our racial justice journey to us. I needed your grace more than I thought I would. The people who are still early in that racial justice journey, those who still have the questions about what will it mean if we truly adopt an equity framework? What will I lose? Those people who are still early on their racial justice journey, who say, I'm a good person, but why do I have to be held responsible for atrocities that occurred 400 years ago? Grace. Grace opens doors for learning. Grace opens up the possibilities for us to attract more people into this work. Grace allows us to widen the road toward justice. It says to folks, you don't have to be perfect in this work. It allows for mistakes, stumbles, and falls. Grace says we are all human. Grace understands that in these United States of America, we are still working toward a more perfect union. Grace. You know, one of the things that I've really struggled with over the past few years is the adoption of this cancel culture. I don't know how we've gotten here. I'm going to say that again. I don't know how we as a society have gotten to the point where we're canceling people, and especially within the work of justice, racial justice, gender justice. To cancel is to exclude. That is counterintuitive to our work, everything we say we are. I believe that we, those of us who are called into this work of justice, those who are called to Sedek, we have to start rejecting this idea, this notion that one misstep means that you're forever banished. Inclusion is inclusion. Now, I want to be clear on this point. If you are David Duke-like, some of y'all like David Duke? Okay. I'm dating myself. If you are someone like a David Duke, someone who was a grand wizard in the KKK, okay, like you can't lead the racial justice movement. Okay. But we also need to leave space for the slow process of growth that every human goes through, for a David Duke-like person to be able to one day be included in our community. Justice is about inclusion. Question. I want you to think about how much more we could accomplish if we engaged in the intentional practice of grace toward others. How many more people would be welcomed into our movement toward a more perfect union, one in which we all experience freedom, justice, and equality, if we each started practicing a little bit more grace? When others feel as if they don't need to have all of the answers or to walk in perfectionism, it lays out a welcome mat to expand our work. And friends, with the challenges we face today, we need more people. We need to multiply. not subtract. And so the question is, what are you doing in your work that is attracting more people to this belief that here in the United States of America, we can deliver on the promise of freedom, justice, and equality, and we can do it through a multiracial democracy? Something that's never been done before, a multiracial democracy. What are you doing in your personal life's journey to attract more people to these ideals? What are you doing as a community in your own backyard? I love that we support what's happening in Georgia and Texas and in those other places where they do those really bad things. But what I would love to see even more is us looking in our own backyards to see what we can do as community to attract more people into this work. And I want to say this, look, I am not idealistic. I am a Black woman, okay? I am the descendant of those who were formerly enslaved in this nation, and I'm also the descendant of those from whom this land was snatched. And for as much of my lineage that I know about, that which hasn't been stolen from me, it is marked with generations of those who have fought through and survived oppression. So I understand fully what I'm saying is really hard. But what I will submit to you today is that the man they call king understood the power of grace in this work and understood that in order for us to move forward, it required the extension of grace to more people. It's part of our faith walk, our faith journey. Some people say that we've waited long enough and that there is a need for more impatience and less grace. I don't believe the two are mutually exclusive. I'm impatient. I'm ready for some change. But I also believe that grace can be infused in this work. What does that look like? Absent grace, we are just in a racial justice fight for the sake of fighting. We dig our heels in without being able to acknowledge progress when it shows up. We cannot be in this work fighting for fight's sake. We also know that, as King said, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Friends, when we afford others grace, when we infuse grace into our work, it allows us to not only see humanity, but also to celebrate that progress. There are very few absolutes in this work. I'm going to say that I've been doing this a long time. And I know for sure there are very few absolutes in this work. It is okay to compromise without being compromised. It is okay to take a time out without throwing in the towel. It's okay to reach across the proverbial aisle without losing our identity. And it's not only okay, it is necessary to celebrate the 80% of a win without dwelling on the 20% that we left on the field. There is power when we release and give grace to others and can receive it in return. I want to leave you with a quote from Dr. King that I believe speaks to this moment. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. You want to live a life that is honoring to this legacy of Dr. King? Open your heart to grace. Practice it. Give it freely. It will help to unleash the heavy burden that comes with doing racial justice work. And it will also open the doors of inclusion for some, perhaps, of the most unlikely, I like to call them unindicted co-conspirators. We need more friends in this work. And I believe grace is a key. Again, I want to thank you for inviting me into this space. I want to thank you for giving me an opportunity to share with you tonight some of what has been top of mind for me. Because we are living in some very scary times. This democracy is still so young. This experiment is so fragile. And it's not promised to be here for generations to come. It is going to require our continued work, our continued belief, our continued hope. But the reality of the moment, the disappointments, also means that we have to actively look for ways to push through. We cannot give up on this thing. This thing we call America. We cannot give up on its promise. And we cannot give up on truly achieving an inclusive, multiracial democracy that works for all of us. I'm encouraged that Arlington is a part of this work. And I'm so thankful to be in partnership with you, to know that you are here, laboring in your own backyard to help strengthen this community and hopefully serve as an example for others across the Commonwealth. Thank you again for inviting me.
Tanisha Sullivan, everyone. Please, another round of applause. So as we get ready for another musical performance, I do want to make sure that we recognize our Outstanding Achievement Award winner. Lee, whose bio you can find, Lee Fenner, in your programs here, she actually contracted COVID and couldn't be here to accept the award. And I'll read a part of her bio, and she did send me some remarks that she wanted to share with everyone. So Lee Fenner is a longtime Arlington resident, and she served on the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Observance Committee from 2013 to 2020. She is a creative marketing executive and writer who seeks to expand awareness of white supremacy and systemic racism and to promote racial equity and social justice through her work, community engagement, and creative projects. She is the Director of Communications at one of the country's largest anti-poverty agencies, Action for Boston Community Development, where she also serves as a member of their Racial Equity Working Group. She is a playwright as well and a lyricist whose works include the musical A Pint of Understanding and the concept and the text of Circle of the First. That's a commissioned choral work that pays tribute to the wisdom and the life ways of the first peoples of North and South America. So Ali obviously was devastated that she couldn't come here today, and we have her plaque and her small gifts from the community, but I do want to share the words that she shared with me. She says, "I am sorry I can't be with you this evening, but COVID had other plans. I'm deeply honored by this acknowledgement and grateful to the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Birthday Observance Committee for this generous gesture. As Dr. King said, everyone can be great because anybody can serve. And there are many ways to serve. I guess I've followed 3 simple but powerful tenets. Look up, as in research. As someone of Western European heritage, I spent much of my life unlearning a sanitized version of American history and accepting hard truths, because only then can we dismantle systemic racism. Speak up, from microaggressions to discriminatory policies. We've got to name any and all wrongs in order to dissolve them. Show up. We have to put our highest and best thoughts and words into action in order to bring about change. I admire the town of Arlington and the residents of Arlington for being out front on racial equity and social justice, and tonight the committee celebrates 35 years of this inspiring celebration, and of course the town's DEI initiatives, Envision Arlington, and others continue to foster meaningful change. I'm proud to have contributed to Arlington's efforts in some small measure. Thank you. And we honor Lee because she was able to put together those remarks while having a fever with COVID, so extraordinary feat there. And so as we move on to another musical section of the program, the Arlington High School Honors Orchestra and the Arlington High School Chorus is here. They will lead us in the Anthem of Freedom, and then we'll move on to We Shall Overcome, and we are going to invite everyone to sing with us. So the words are in your program here. Don't worry about being off key. I'm told that the chorus has got y'all, so don't worry about it. We're here in a spirit of celebration. We want to make our ancestors proud. All right, everybody. We're going to go ahead and put the words up and let you sing. Go ahead and move into We Shall Overcome, which is the next song that is in your program book. This is something that we do a cappella, and is our little surprise that we do at the end as well. I'm told that it is a tradition, so I'm going to have my students in the back. Go ahead and advance the slide. There we go. And I'm not going to start singing, so somebody's got to start. So, because y'all don't want to hear me sing. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Give yourselves a round of applause. I don't think I've sung in front of people since the 5th grade, so there we are with that. To end our program, we do want to have a benediction from Reverend Cynthia, excuse me, good. That's how frazzled I am to sing in front of you all. Reverend Cynthia Good from the Calvary Church.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. We do it all with grace, and we do it together. Martin didn't do it alone. We remembered on Friday that he did it with Coretta, that he did it with Rosa, that he did it with Fannie Lou, and with John Lewis, and with Jesse Jackson, and with Malcolm X, and he does it with us. We do it all with grace and in grace. So go from this place filled with God's grace, living it in all that you do, living Martin's legacy in all that you do, being the beloved community in all that you do, and know that you are surrounded with grace. Go in peace. Amen.
Thank you. Well, I do, as we wrap up the program, I do want to acknowledge the members of the committee, because I just kind of came in here and I knew a couple of computer programs and had a desire to serve, but these folks have been doing it for 35 years, and I'd like you all to stand, please. Thank you so much for how you serve this community. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you all for coming out. I know that, we've been challenged to come together after COVID, after things have been closed, after surging cases and things like that, but it is important to show up and show out, especially for Dr. King. So I appreciate you. My name is Crystal Haynes Copperthorne. Thank you for your time, and good night.